there, guys. Sorry about the really crazy background in this video. One of the cats is on the seat I usually use and I don't want to disturb them. Today I want to talk about the portrayal of Goths in movies and television and why it's important to the subculture. I'm pretty sure that at some point in everyone's life they have seen a Goth character in a movie or an episode of a TV show, sometimes multiple episodes. And honestly, personally, I have yet to find a portrayal that I actually liked. And the main reasons for that are because either A, they are portrayed in a very stereotypical way, or B, it isn't a goth character at all and people just assume it is because of how the character looks. I'm going to talk about the first portion of what I just said first, which is the stereotypes. Stereotyping can occasionally be like a good thing, like if it's used in a comedic sense and you're not actively trying to hurt anyone or being like all out racist or something. It can be kind of silly in sitcoms and stuff or comedy movies. But the kind of stereotyping that happens with goth characters is actually harmful because I think that when people make movies and TV shows, something that they often forget is the fact that whether they want to or not, it's human nature to look at these characters and see them as fact. No matter how ridiculous the show or the movie is, doesn't matter if this is their first encounter with a goth character and they don't really see goth people walking around in their daily life, part of them is just going to assume that is what goth people are like. So if you've got someone who's like in full-on vampire mode, or they're being really like, oh, I hate the sun and I hate people and I just want to sit in the dark in my room, that kind of thing that they usually do with them, people just assume that's what goths are like, and that further perpetuates the stereotypes that like all goths are depressed, all goths are really gloomy and don't want anything to do with other people and are antisocial or sometimes even violent. And in reality, goths are no more likely to be any of those things than anyone from any other culture or subculture. But seeing goths portrayed that way in movies and in TV shows over the course of your entire life does perpetuate those stereotypes, and it does in some way make you believe them in some way or another because your brain gets trained to believe that what you're seeing is true. And when I see things like that, a part of me can't help but think about Sophie Lancaster and what happened to her, because the guys that killed her had a certain idea of the kind of person she was in their minds when they committed the terrible acts that they did against her. And although we'll never really know for sure, because I doubt that they'll ever really say anything for sure, it's hard not to wonder whether or not they just got those negative ideas of goth people in their heads because of what they've seen up to then. So stereotyping against people who look different than what society deems as normal can be very, very dangerous, especially if all of those stereotypes are very negative and not really that harmless, because people will start to believe that it could create a mob mentality and you could have a lot of tragedies like that happen again. And now for the less gloomy, sad, and more just annoying part, the fact that most goth characters that everyone loves and they're like, oh, goth girl goals and stuff, aren't even goth characters. I'm not going to get too far into what goth is and what goth isn't in this video because that's a whole different video of its own, and many videos on YouTube have been made on that subject already, just look them up. But in a nutshell, a goth is a person who enjoys goth music and, follows those bands and stuff, just loves goth music. It's a music movement, just like metalheads love metal music. There's your, in a nutshell, explanation. Which means that, yes, a lot of goths do look a lot like goth singers in goth bands with the crazy hair and the crazy makeup and wearing a lot of black and everything, but it's not a requirement. And in order to be goth, you've got to love the goth music. Most of these characters I think just about all of them that I have seen in movies and TV shows might look the part, they look darkly inclined, and they dress that certain way, but at no point during their time on screen do you see or hear of them following a band that's goth, going to a goth concert, listening to goth music. In fact, most of the time if you hear them playing any music in their room or something, it's generally like death metal or something, or dark wave. And yeah, dark wave music has some links with goth music, but they are not the same at all. So it's just kind of irritating because I see stuff like, I think, the Addams Family, and I always forget her name, the girl from the show Downtown, and Steve's girlfriend in American Dad. All of them look very darkly inclined, and people write like goth girl goals and like, oh, I love, these goth girls, they're so hot or they're so pretty, but they're not goth. They don't really do anything goth. They don't enjoy anything goth. They just are darkly inclined and like to dress a certain way. And as I said before, any of them that do listen to music, it's usually not a goth band, so they're not goth. They're just darkly inclined. Goth people might enjoy some of them, like the Addams Family. I enjoy the Addams Family. I think that it's really fun to watch, and I think that the characters are really kind and relatable, and I wish more of the world could be as generous and kind as they are, but I do not see them as a goth family. I see them as a darkly inclined family. So that side of it is just the spread of misinformation, which again, like, it's less harmful than what I mentioned before, but it still doesn't really help the cause at all. It doesn't help people understand us when TV and movies say everybody who wears black and wears a lot of makeup is a goth, when it's not true, because that confuses a lot of kids. A lot of baby bats who are just coming onto the subculture are going to think that they are goth. They're going to, get their little outfits all put together and all, and they're going to go out into the world, and they're going to get slammed by the elitists of the subculture, because a lot of elder goths, and not even just elder goths, a lot of goths in general are getting kind of tired of all these people coming onto the scene and deciding that they can listen to whatever the hell they want, and as long as they're wearing black, they're goth. That's not what goth is. Again, metalheads or something. You can't just throw on a band t-shirt and call yourself a metalhead. That's not how it works. A metalhead is someone who loves metal music and metal bands. And it would be really obnoxious to just lump yourself into that category, and like, not even just for yourself and like the potential bullying you could get from going up to someone and saying you're goth when you really know nothing about being goth and the gothic subculture and where the goth movement came from. But it's like offensive to the people you're talking to as well, because if we're like the only goth in our town or city, and we finally meet somebody who says that they're goth on Meetup or Facebook or something, we're like, oh, finally, someone I have something in common with, someone I can talk to, someone I can go to concerts with, and then you're like, oh yeah, did you see that Peter Murphy is going to be in town in April, do you want to go see him? They go, who's that? That's kind of crushing, because you were so amped up and so excited about the fact that you finally had someone that you could share the music you love with, and then it turns out they know nothing about it. It's just kind of annoying. So what I think moving forward, movies and TV writers need to be more conscious of is the fact that it's okay to have darkly inclined characters, but be careful how much you're using them as the butt of the joke and negatively stereotyping them, because after a while it does cause huge problems within the community because of people wanting to attack us and everything. And in terms of just lumping every darkly inclined character into this goth pocket, just do your research, understand that that character may not be goth, and that you're spreading misinformation and confusing baby bats, and that maybe it's a good idea to just say like, oh yeah, that's the, darkly inclined girl. Start throwing that word around a little bit more. It's not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing to be. It's just someone who, looks goth but isn't goth, pretty much. I hope this wasn't too negative. I wasn't trying to make it negative. I was trying to make it educational as much as possible and keep it short and sweet. So as always, do something that makes you happy today no matter what anyone else thinks about it, and I will see you soon.